All right, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's live session with your temporary host and guide and teacher, your beloved brother, your beloved friend, Oliver Blue Jr., and I'm delighted to be here on this gorgeous spring Sunday morning. And I can't think of anything else I would prefer to be doing than sitting here, inviting you into this part of my morning uh, meditation, I guess you might say. And if you are new to my channel or my platforms, I welcome you. These series of live sessions are here because I believe that I have something that is very relevant for the times that we are in. And I think that um, what I have to say is helpful and that I'm only here to be helpful. Only here to be helpful. I am not here for any other reason but to be helpful and to share with you what I believe is and what I have experienced as the truth that is true always concerning not only myself but all humanity. And thank you for joining in on this session. Sit back and relax, and you may hear something that resonates with you. If you do, lean into it. You may hear some things that are startling or almost even unbelievable. If you hear those things, don't judge them. Just sit with them, because I believe that if there's any truth, if there's any reality, then those truths and those realities will prove themselves to be true. And if you know anything about my history, if you followed me, I love spirituality. I love sharing spirituality. It was me having my own experience, my own spiritual experience, that caused my life to be changed forever and for the good. And I just feel compelled to share anything and everything that I think that can help all humanity to wake up to a reality of what we're been talking about here for the last 6 live session. This is actually our 7th sharing in this series that we call and that we have named The Perfect Creation of Love is You. That's right. We've been talking about an idea that is found in most advanced spiritual writings, including scripture, and including one of my favorite resources, which is the Course in Miracles, or the Way of Mastery. And so I want to talk about that today, in the sense that our goal, or I think the goal of humanity, is to wake up to the reality of who we are, to know ourselves, to embrace our true identity. I think you've heard me say here many times that I believe that the world is in an identity crisis. And when you are in an identity crisis, that means there is a forgetfulness of who we are. We have forgotten who we are. We have gone against the natural order of things. We have attempted to substitute reality for unreality. We have attempted to substitute love for fear. We have attempted to place something in between us and the oneness that we share. And so today is a continuation of this series on the perfect creation of love is you. Yes, you. And what does that mean? And what does that look like when I say the perfect creation of love is you? And what we've said here is that when we say that the perfect creation of love is you, what we're saying is that you are already perfected. You are already complete. That you are already whole. That you are already divine. You are already holy. Yes, Jesus said it this way. He said, nothing that we could do here in our human experience can add one jot or tittle to our statue. In other words, he was saying, we are already complete. Already complete. We're already divine. You know, Paul put it this way. When he caught the revelation, Paul said that we are complete in him, meaning that whatever God is, we are that right now. In fact, 1 John said it this way. If you go to the book of 1 John in chapter 4, verse in verse 17, it says, herein is love made perfect, or herein is the perfection of love. And I'm reading out of the King James Version of the Bible. Again, if you want to follow along for you Bible scholars, I'm a Bible scholar myself, but that's not the only resource I use. You know, God didn't stop sharing and stop revealing when the Bible was given. No, God in love is in reality is always sharing, is always extending, is always enlightening. Always, right? So if you're one of those staunch fundamental Bible thumper toters, if you're a fundamentalist and say that it's that God has spoken and it's all over and nothing else is being said, there's nothing else being revealed, I beg the difference, right? Love is always shining. Love is always expanding. Love is that's the nature of love. It is always giving. It is always reflecting something new, something magnificent, something whole, something complete. And so here in 1 John chapter 4, verse 17, it says, herein is love made perfect. See? Herein is love made perfect. That means that love is not that love is made perfect in that it was given to us in an incomplete state. But what he's saying here is that herein is the way that you experience the perfection that love is, or the perfection that you are. Right? This is the way we can experience it in our human journey, in our human nature, in our human life, in our relationships. Here is how we can experience it among each other. He said, herein is our love made perfect, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, that we may boldly experience and boldly extend and boldly share the perfected love that we are. He says, because he said we can be bold because as love is, or as God is, or as the truth is, or as reality is, whatever you use to relate to that which is the ultimate, to relate to that which is reality. Some of us say God, some of us say Jesus, some of us say the Christ, some of us say Buddha, some of us say Brahman. I mean, different religion, Buddhism, all different religions are really, they're pointing to the same. We all desire the same things, and that is to know God, and to know God is to know ourselves, because what we come to find out is that what God is, as it's going to tell us here, or what love is who we are. That is only the one thing, and we're all a part of that one thing. And so it goes on to say, it says, because as he is, so are we in this world. As love is, as God is, as Jesus is, as the Christ is, as Buddha is, as Muhammad is, as whatever we use to point to that divine creation. We can call it what we want to call it. That only puts limitations on it. But we know from the heart of hearts that we are divinely a part or connected to something that is much larger than what meets the eye, much larger than ourselves, much larger than this world we live in. That there is a unlimited, infinite being, an energy, whatever you want to relate it to, that we are a part of. That we are not just born to die, that we are eternal beings, that we are infinite in our nature. Meaning that there's no beginning to us and there is no end. Just like there is no beginning and end to life, because we're one with life. And we are a part of that. And what we cease to call it is what have divided us. The way we have personally decided to approach it, how we have tried to institutionalize it. Those are the things that have caused us to be divided about what is really eternity that has been placed in our heart and in our minds. Just like when we look at another individual, when we look at another human being, we know that there is a divinity in that person. And that same divinity is in myself. We recognize it, right? Because like they say, it takes one to know one. So when we look at another human being, we know, regardless of their nationality or their race or their age or their gender, we know, even regardless of what their choices are, we know that what we are looking at basically is ourselves, is a reflection of our own divinity. And when it remains a mystery, we seek to make a difference between what we're looking at and who we are. But it's no doubt in your mind or my mind when any part of creation views itself. In other words, when two animals come together, when two dogs come together, or two cats come together, or two horses come together, or two ants come together, or two birds come together, or two whales come together, or whatever the species that are of a like kind, that are in the image and likeness of each other, when they look at each other, they know instantly that they are of the same nature, that they share the same essence, that they are each other's self. Without a doubt. And when we look at another human being, we know that. We know that we're looking at the same image and likeness that we are. But what gets in the way is the conditioning, is the programming, is the false idea that there is a difference, that the color makes a difference, or the religion makes a difference, or the skin tone makes a difference, or the religion makes a difference, or the political preference makes a difference, who our favorite entertainer makes a difference, or who our favorite team makes a difference, or our nationality makes a difference, or on and on and on. What country you was born in makes a difference. All of these things we have placed front and center and cause this great divide, this great separation, this great denial. But here in 1 John 4:17, it says, this is how we experience the perfection of our love, the perfection of our reality. We do that. We experience it by accepting the reality that as love is, as God is, as the Christ is, as the Buddha is, as Muhammad is, as Harry, whatever label we have used to point us to divinity. As it is, so are we right now in this world. But we are either in a state of acceptance or we are in a state of denial. I'm going to say that again. The reality of our oneness with God is set in stone. And our experience of that reality is determined by our acceptance or by our denial. And when we accept and embrace through our freedom to choose, the fact that as love is, so are we in this world. That we are the perfect creation of love. That's what we're saying. That you are already whole and complete. That you are accepted in the beloved of God. And not only you, but all humanity. There is no exception to love. But all humanity, this is their true nature. This is their true essence. And so to experience that is to accept it. And to accept it is to extend it to everyone unconditionally. To accept your reality as the perfect creation of love. To accept the divinity that you are. To accept the love that we share. To accept the reality that there is only the one. And we are all a part of that one. But there's only one being, and we are part of that being. And that love is at the nature of that being. And that all have been called, all have been created, and all of us have been called to eat at the one table of love equally. Do we accept that reality? Because to deny the reality is to accept or to embrace fear. And fear has torment. Fear has the ability to create a world that is ugly, that is divisive, that is vicious, that causes us to have a perception about ourselves and about each other and about God that is wholly vicious. And thus we find ourselves creating an environment that is based on separation and division. It's based on oppression. It's based on inequality. That is based on absolute foolishness, to where it only produces a multitude of pain and suffering. If you don't believe me, just read the history books. Just read the history books and see the history of humanity. And you don't have to just read the history book. Just look among us right now. Just see and feel what most are seeing and feeling right here in this month of March 2025, where there seems to be a absolute identity crisis all over the world. And it shows up in many forms, and it shows up in every arena. And it is charged with this sense of separation. It is charged with this sense of uh, I want to use the right word here. It's charged. Fear always manifests itself in some form of pain or some form of suffering among ourselves. And it's not that something is coming from without, but it is what is coming from within. It is coming from how we are seeing ourselves. Are we seeing ourselves as the perfect creation of love? Are we seeing ourselves, as Jesus said, as he is, so are we? Are we seeing ourselves as complete and as whole and in unity, in oneness? Or are we elevating the differences? Are we living as mere men, as mere natural men, and all that we know naturally, and all that we are inspired by our worst impulses because we are operating from a place of fear? We're operating from a place of fear when we're not operating from a place of love. And when we're not operating from a place of fear, we don't see ourselves as he is. We don't see our brother as ourselves. And that plays out in so many diabolical, destructive ways. You know, the Course in Miracles calls it egoic. It's the ego. It is the edging out of reality. It is the denial of the truth. And we're trying to make the truth to be something else. We're trying to make ourselves to be something else. We're trying to make others to be something else. And in order to do that, we also make love, or we make God, or we recreate God in an image, in a likeness that is so antithetical to love. We recreate God in our own image of fear. And then we create, or we make, fear-based theology to support that inner misperception that we have. We create doctrines. We create religious practices. And we say that we're doing things in the name of God, or in the name of love, or in the name of our specific religious persuasion. And then we want to make everybody a part of our religious persuasion. And that only leads to chaos. I mean, major chaos. And to be honest with you, and for us to be honest with ourselves, religion has been at the forefront of all chaotic atrocities in the history of mankind. Religion has been. Because we have made God, or remade God, in an image of hate and fear and retribution and destruction and separation and division. We have done this ourselves, and we've made a mess. And if you look around us, you look around the world today, we're still in the mess. I think I'm on my soapbox a little bit. What y'all think? Listen, like I said at the beginning, I believe that I have something to say that is a voice for reason in my generation. And I'm going to say it, just like my elder brother Jesus in his day, because he knew that only the truth could set us free. He says, who the Son sets free is free indeed. It is the truth that makes us free. And not the truth as we have made it, but the truth that is eternal, the truth that is changeless and timeless and beyond it's and beyond the nature of fear. The truth is love itself. And the truth is you are that love. This is our reality. This is the way out of the identity crisis that humanity has been cloaked with for thousands of years. The truth is the only freedom. It's the only way out. It's the only path to our awakening. It is the only path to our enlightenment. It is the only path to our reconciliation. Is to acknowledge and accept the oneness and the unity that we share. And like I said, at the core of this message is that we are already one with God. We are already one with love. We're already the Christ. And we're already this perfect creation, and we can't add anything to our statue. And so this life that we have been given, this opportunity that we have been given, this incarnation that we all have, is but a journey for us to but remember, for us to but remember who we are, so that we can choose love in every circumstance, that we can become masters of life, right? That we can become masters of this life that we have been given. And I made a few posts this week on my platforms pertaining to mastery. What is mastery? All right. And here we want to understand that mastery is no more than choosing love in every situation. I think I had something. Here it is. Let me put this up here. Yes. Mastery is being consistent in choosing only love in every circumstance. Why? Because it is when we choose love in every circumstance, it is an acknowledgement that is who we are. That is what I am. That is who we all are. And the remembrance of that, our life journey, allows us to remember who we are, so that we can choose love, so that we can demonstrate love, so that we can put on display that as God is, so are we in this world. That we were born of love, that we were created by love and for love. And the mastery of that in our life journey is learning to choose only love. Right? Because this is who we are. And what is the alternative to that? What is the alternative? Of Course in Miracles says there's really only two emotions. There's only two energies, because the word emotion basically means energy that is in motion. Emotion, energy in motion. That's what it means, right? Because energy is always moving. Or we could say love is always moving. Love is always sharing. Love is always extending itself. Like the sun is always shining. Love is always moving. Energy is always moving, right? It's the nature of love to extend itself. It's the nature of love to give. When you have an impulse to give, when you have an impulse to share for the good, that is love oozing out of you. You can't help yourself. When you see another that is in distress and you reach out to try to bring some comfort to them, to your neighbor, to your family, to your relatives, to your countrymen, doesn't matter. That is the impulse of love that is rising from your nature. You cannot help yourself because that is at the root of your nature. And so the only alternative to that is to suppress the love. And when we suppress the love, we're choosing fear. And fear has torment. Fear has destructive outcomes. Fear is not expansive, but fear is contractive. Fear takes a lot of energy and a lot of effort. Love takes no effort or no energy. Love is a natural outpouring. It's a natural proclivity. It's a natural response, right? The sun shines. The bird flies. The ant works together to build. The fish swims because that is their nature. They can't help themselves. And because we're the perfect creation of love, we're God's highest creation, and we remain as we were created, then it is in our nature to extend the love that we share. It's within our nature to give that which we have received. That's what Jesus meant when he said, give and it shall be given. Love and love shall be its very nature. And so we're always choosing one of the two emotions, right? We're either choosing love or acknowledging the love that we are, or we are denying our true nature and choosing for fear. And the good news is no one can take your freedom to choose. No one can take your power to choose away from you. That is the good news. Because the choice or the decision is not an external thing in form that can be imprisoned or that can be suppressed or that can be destroyed. Your freedom to choose cannot be destroyed. Your freedom and how you choose to respond to anything in life can never, ever be taken away from you, because it's not a thing to hold. It's not a thing to be imprisoned. It's not something that can be destroyed. It doesn't have form. It's not something you can see. We just see the response of our choices. We see the response of our freedom. But the freedom to choose is what love is. The freedom to express our nature is what love is. And no one can ever take that freedom away from you. They could lock you up in the deepest dungeon They could uh, they could export you to the farthest part of the earth. They could seem to deny you your rights and your freedom and your liberty. To move physically. And in those places and in those situations and in those circumstances, you can still choose love. You can still choose to be the expression of the perfect love that you are. And in so doing, we are making a choice, not for the temporal, but we're making a choice for that which is eternal. We are making a choice for our purpose. We're taking a stand. In other words, we're not against something, but we are for everything that is love. I want to say that again, right? When you walk in the perfect creation of love, when you know who you are, you are not against anything, but you're for love. So there is no fight, there is no war. There's only the demonstration of the truth that is true always. I'm remembering the story of Viktor Frankl, who was placed in a German war camp. And Victor had to experience the death of his wife, the murder of his wife by the Nazis, the murder of his kids by the Nazis. And then he was hauled off to a concentration camp after having experienced the loss of his wife and his two kids. And he got to survive that. But he was taken off to a war camp. And while in that war camp, there were some soldiers that came to Victor, right? And noticed that he had his wedding band on his finger. And, these soldiers who has obviously chosen for fear, right? They had given their soul they have sold their soul to fear. They had given over their freedom to choose over to fear. And they had become instruments of carrying out such atrocities. We see that happening here in 2025, where people have abdicated their conscious freedom to be and to do that which is loving only, to choose only love, to become masters of love. But out of fear, they have abdicated their very soul to an idea that is founded in separation and division and inequality and oppression and fear. They have abdicated themselves to what they know is not of their nature. So there is an all-out concerted effort. It takes a lot of effort to choose fear over love. It takes the damning of your own soul. It takes the choice of denial of what is real and what is true. It almost like you have to become dehumanized in order to carry out the acts of fear. You have to become dehumanized to carry out the acts of fear, whereas you oppress and subjugate your very own self to a state of pain and suffering. Because what we do for others, we're really doing it to ourselves. When we choose fear over love, right? We're choosing fear over love, and that results in the attack of another, and it results in the oppression of another, and it results in the dehumanization of another. We're only doing that to ourselves because that's the way we see ourselves. Fear has blinded us. It has blinded us when we are in that state of denial, when we are in that state of rejection, when we reject our nature, when we choose to place something that is not, when we choose to place fear as our identity versus love. Like the Course says, frightened people can be very vicious. Then we see the viciousness that has been on display throughout all of humanity. And even in this 2025, the year of 2025, we see the viciousness that is on display. And it's only a reflection of the choices that humanity have made for themselves to choose fear over love. And so when the soldiers saw the wedding band on Viktor Frankl's finger, they commenced to take it off. To the only one thing that in that moment Viktor felt like the only thing that he had as a remembrance, the only thing that he has as a part of his past. In that moment, they were trying to take the very last thing that he had, his dignity, his pride, his awareness, his humanity, his divinity. That was an act of attempting to take his divinity from him. When we don't acknowledge love, and that love is all encompassing, and that all of us are the perfect creation of love, and we allow fear to be our motivation, that is exactly what we are doing. We are seeking to destroy the dignity that cannot be destroyed. But in that moment, Viktor Frankl realized that they can take all these things out of his life, out of his presence. But the one thing that it could not take away from him was his freedom to choose, and his freedom to choose how he would respond in that moment. Oh my God. He realized that in that moment, the soldiers, the idea, the viciousness, the inequality, the oppression, the idea of separation and division, none of that, all of that was coming from fear, and fear has torment only if we give ourselves to it. And in that moment, he realized that he had the power to choose love only, and he chose only love. And because he exercised his power to choose in that moment. He mastered life in that moment. That's the mastery of life. The power to choose only love in every circumstance. And because he did that, Viktor Frankl, in that Nazi camp, leaned into his true nature. He leaned into the perfect creation of love. He leaned into his oneness with God. He leaned into his oneness with humanity, even to the point that he forgave. He forgave the very soldiers. He forgave the very people. He forgave the very idea, the diabolical idea that was being put on display. And he chose love in that moment. And because of that, Viktor Frankl went on to be one of the most influential human beings on the planet. And his life was used in great ways to help so many who had no level of what he had to experience, nowhere near the extreme case that he experienced. He was able to help others who had struggled and didn't understand the power to choose, didn't understand the freedom to choose, didn't understand that that is where the mastery was. You look at the life of Jesus Christ. That's what he displayed. He put on a display, an extreme display, even to the crucifixion of the body. That in that moment, he chose only love. He said, Father, I forgive them, for they know not what they do. They don't know that they are damning their own soul. They don't know that they are in denial of their true self. They don't know that they're one of us. So he mastered life. And now it's your turn. Now it's my turn. And in this highly charged environment that we find ourselves in here in 2025, the highly charged echo chambers that are surrounding us, the voice of fear is highly charged right now. But the voice of love, the voice of love remains in its stillness, in its quietness, in its peaceful place. The voice for love remains as it always has remained. Because it is the truth that is true always. It is the thing that is real and is eternal and it cannot be destroyed. And everything that fear produces is temporary. Everything that fear produces is temporary. It is going to change. It is not going to last. It is not going to last. It is not going to prevail. Only love will prevail in the end. So in this highly charged echo chamber that we find ourselves in here in 2025, I'm here to tell you, it is the perfect condition for your mastery, for you to become the master that you are, for you to put on display your freedom to choose only love. To choose only love. And when we choose only love, in every circumstance, because love is love in every circumstance. We have become masters of our life. And we have come to a place where we understand the purpose for life. And if we come to a place where we understand that we understand who we are, that the identity crisis is over for us, and that we see the face of Christ in everyone, that we understand that, like Jesus said, to love your neighbor as yourself. Why? Because we come to understand that our neighbor is ourself. When you master life, when you become a master of life, you understand that all is one and one is all. And what I do for my brother, I do for myself, because my brother is myself. That there is, in reality, there is nothing but love. And the chaos and the pain and suffering that fear makes, because fear can't create anything. Only love creates, and it creates like itself. See, there's a difference between creation and that what we made. Creation is what is what God is, and it's what God extended, which is you and me. And then we get to choose to further extend the love that we share, or we get to deny the love that we share and to become something that we're not, and begin to make we begin to make a different expression out of fear, out of the belief in separation. That is the process. So we're always either extending and expressing the love that we all share, or we're making up a substitute called fear. And fear has torment. And fear has torment. And so Viktor Frankl, one of his accomplishments is that he wrote many books. Viktor wrote many books. And one of the most popular sayings that came out of one of his books is this right here that I put on the screen. And he learned this from his experience in that Nazi camp. He learned this from leaning into the truth that is true always in that moment. He penned this because in his most pressing moment, he became a master of himself. He became a master of life by choosing only love. And so he wrote this statement in one of his writings that says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. Thank God for the space. Because without the space, we couldn't pause. And without pausing, we would be reactive. Right? But that space is very important. You know, you've heard people say, you know, the most important information or truth is in between the lines. They're in between the letters. They're in between the words. You got to read between the lines. You got to read between the letters. You got to read between the words. So here he says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. So between the time that we're stimulated by information, between the time that we are engaged in some maybe physical interaction, he say in between the time that we experience that and our response to that, there is a space, and that space is very important. It says, and in that space is our power to choose our response. There it is right there. Right? Our power to choose our response. And right here in 2025, with all of the noise that has been noised abroad all across the world right now, the world is in a identity crisis right now. whether or not love is going to be the experience, or whether fear is going to be the experience. And so there's these two echo chambers that are out there. One is loud and boisterous. One speaks first. One is always using fear and using oppression, inequality, threats. That's an indication that that's coming from a place of fear. And some people think that that's strength. That is not strength. That is fear. Because love is strength. Christ consciousness is strength. Unity is strength. Oneness is strength. Compassion is strength. Forgiveness is strength. So you got these, you got this loud echo chamber that's speaking loud, but repeating itself over and over again. It's fear. Then on the other hand, the consistent, ever-present, still small voice that is not an external voice, but it is an internal awareness that is present in all humanity. Jesus calls it the place of the heart, or the voice for God, or the Spirit of God, or the Holy Spirit, the whole Spirit, the complete Spirit, or the voice that speaks for love. Many different terminology that we label it. But it is quiet, it is certain, it is sure, it is absolute, it is unalterable, it is unchangeable. It is that voice that hovered over the deep in Genesis chapter 1 when it says, "Let there be light," and there was light. Let there be light. Let there be love. Let there be unity. Let there be oneness. Let there be Christ consciousness in a soft and gentle way. And so in between the stimulus and response in this space is our power to choose. Our response to the stimulus, our response to the voice of fear. Our response to the identity crisis. In between the stimulus, the threats, in between the threats and our choice to respond is our power to choose only love. And therein lies our growth. Therein lies our freedom. Therein lies our peace. Therein lies our identity. Therein lies our divinity. So how am I going to navigate in our time, in our day, in this present day? How are we going to navigate? What are we going to put on display? What are we going to choose, love or fear? Which emotion, which energy are we going to put in motion? Are we going to put in motion the energy of love, which is a demonstration of our oneness, that we are, yes, one with God and one with each other and one with all life? Or are we going to put on the display of fear, which has torment, which oppresses, and it does all of these things that we have recorded in history that is antithetical to life, that is antithetical to love, that is antithetical to who we are. It's our time right now. And the greater the echo chamber of fear, the greater the still small voice of love. So I love Viktor Frankl. So as we said, what is mastery in this lesson that we're sharing today? Mastery is being consistent and choosing only love in every circumstance, whether it be in your close, most intimate relationships, because you're going to have the opportunity to choose. You're going to be stimulated by someone else's, choices or activities or the way that they think or the way that they show up. That's a stimulus. In your professional relationships, in your community relationships, in your national relationship. How do you see others? How do you treat others? How do you see all humanity? Does it make a difference? The physical form. Does it make a difference? Their race or their gender or their nationality or their religion or their choice of who they love and how they love. Does that make a greater difference than the reality that we are both sharing the same divine nature of love? What are we making a priority to cause us to have misperceptions about ourselves, about our Creator, and about others? Jesus said, love the Lord God. He said, this is the only law that we need to be aware of and concerned about. Right? Because if we are aware and concerned about the law of love, then we don't have to be fighting and divided over laws that man makes. And he said, the only law we need to be concerned about is to love the Lord our God, to love our Creator, to love the Lord your God with all your heart and your mind and your soul and your energy. To love God. Because to love God is to love yourself. Because like we said here, the perfect creation of love is you. It's basically saying that we're already one with God. We're already one with love. So that means that what God is, that is who we are. As He is, so are we in this world. I and you and me, we are one. When you've seen me, you have seen the Creator. You have seen the Father. That's what Jesus was saying. He said, ye are gods. We are gods. We're already that. And God's love. And then he went on to say right here in the same 4th chapter of 1 John, he said in verse 16, it says, God is love. And he that remain in love, remain in God and God in him. So he said, this is the only law that we need to be concerned about. Because if this is the law that we operate from, then we don't have to worry about division and separation. We don't have to worry about oppression. We don't have to worry about inequality. We won't have to worry about our petty preferences. We won't have to worry about whiteness or blackness or redness or greenness. We won't have to worry about the rich or the poor. We wouldn't have to worry about who eats and who does not eat. Because when we operate from the law of love, everyone eats and eats equally from the same source, from the same table, because there is but one source, there is but one table, there is but one substance, there's but one supply, and they belong to all of us equally. When will we learn this lesson? And when we learn this lesson, there will be no more pain. There will be no more suffering. There will be no more tormenting of fear. Because we would have embraced the reality. We would have solved the identity crisis. We would no longer be trying to demonstrate or to be something that we're not. There will be no more hatred. There will be no more inferiority or superiority. Love would be the authority in our life. Love would be the foundation of our life. And we wouldn't try to substitute or find some other authority. See, that's the problem. There's an authority problem. We have suffered the way we've suffered as a species because we have an authority problem. Authority means authorship. Who's the author? We did not make ourselves. We have not made ourselves. There is but one creator. There is but one creation, and it's a perfect creation, and it's you. It's me. It's all humanity. And when we come from this place, all of humanity's problems will be solved. All of the war and fighting will be over. Even the earth itself, the sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the oceans will be released from the oppression, will be released from its oppression. And then he went on in part 2 of that, saying that we only need to be concerned about loving the Lord God. And then he said, and love your neighbor. And love your neighbor. See, you can't love your neighbor until you accept the fact that you are the perfect creation of love, that you are one with God, that you are God's highest creation, and so is everyone else. And when we embrace that reality, instead of promoting specialness, a special religion, a special book, a special race, a special nation, and only embrace the truth that is true always, that God is and there is nothing else, so we must be that. And quit being afraid of who we are in truth. Quit being afraid of who we are in reality, and substituting who we are with an idea that is less than the oneness that we share with God. We need to lay down every illusion. We need to lay down every credence that we have ever held about ourselves, and embrace the truth that is true always, that we are what God is and God is what we are. Until then, the mind will be used to entertain fear and to continue to put on display what we have seen throughout history and what we're seeing today. Hey, it's time to get real with it. Listen, this is my one. This is my one rodeo, or this is my last rodeo, and I intend to spend the rest of my life sharing the light of truth, pointing my brothers and sisters to the truth that is true always, to point us inward to the still small voice that is the Spirit of truth, which Jesus said, when the Spirit of truth, when he come, he shall lead and guide us into all reality. And I believe that I'm under the influence of that Spirit in this moment as I share compassionately that the truth is our only solution. Love is our only way out of this chaos, whatever the chaos may be, whether it be in your personal life, your professional life, right? Your global life, wherever you find chaos and discomfort, wherever you find that nature has gone out of balance, the truth is the solution, and only the truth shall set us free, like Jesus said. I got so many things going on in my mind right now that I want to share, and I just need to settle down. I just need to settle down. Mm. This is not the time to choose fear. This is not the time to side with fear. This crisis has not just started. The identity crisis has not just started. It has been the source of our self-destruction, our pain and suffering from the very beginning. When we denied and rejected the idea of our true identity. When we made a decision to put the natural man out of front of the spiritual man. When we chose fear over love. This is not the time to choose fear. This is the time of correction. The Holy Spirit says, this is the time of reconciliation. This is the time of awakening. This is the time of enlightenment. It'll never be solved out there. Because it's not out there. God didn't place love out there. It is who you are. This is who we are. And when we come from a place of love, love creates only like itself. Love extends only like itself. So whatever problem you're facing, it's because we're denying love. We are denying love in that moment. When there's an impasse, we are denying love in that moment. And in many cases, the simple act or the step that we need to take is just simply forgive. It's just simply let it go. And to realize what we thought our brother did to us. It's not true. what our brother may be thinking about us in that moment is not true. The truth is, and it cannot be changed or altered. I am that I am, and it cannot be changed. I am love. And so we understand that when we are maybe feel like we are unfairly treated, if someone has wronged us, right? We put so much value in that. And we are in pain in that moment. We're carrying the weight of that. We're carrying the anxiety, the stress of that. That's affecting our body. It's affecting our thinking. It's affecting how we respond. And we're not really responding, but we're reacting. Because we're acting from another nature that is not even real. We're acting from a nature of fear, which is not even real. And it feels bad. This is not the time to choose fear. You are a master, and your mastery consists of being consistent and always choosing only love in every moment. Right here, this day, in this hour, as we move from this live session, just practice it. You don't have to believe me. I'm giving you the idea. But it is the practice of the idea that will show you that the idea is true. So make a commitment, whether you believe what I've said or not, or whether you believe these principles that I've shared. The knowing of them is in the practicing of them. So move from this live session and just test it, that in every moment you choose for love. In every moment you choose to forgive. In every moment you choose to see through the eyes of Christ and see the face of Christ in everyone, to see yourself in everyone, to love your neighbor as yourself, because you realize that your neighbor is yourself. Try it. Practice it. It is in the practicing. It is in the doing that we come to discover the truth that is true always. We have practiced fear. We've been highly educated in fear-based theology. We've been highly educated in fear-based perceptions and concepts, and we practice them, and we've gotten the result of them, and we don't like the results. Well, guess what? We get to choose again. We get to choose again. And I want to end today's talk, because I need to end it. Man, time has gotten away from me when I'm having fun. Okay. I want to end today's talk. I want to share a couple things with you out of that same 4th chapter of John in verse 18. First John 4:18. It says, there is no fear in love. There is no fear in love. Because fear is an illusion. It's an idea. It's a tiny mad idea that would lead to madness and destruction and oppression. Notice what he says here. There is no fear in love, but perfect fear, but it says there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out all fear. Just like when you go in a dark room and turn the light on, that light casteth out all the darkness, because the darkness was only temporary. It wasn't real. But when you turn off the light, what? The darkness may show up when you turn off love, when we deny ourselves as being the perfect creation of love. Then we open ourselves up for fear. And so he says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out all fear. So if there's any fear in your human experience, it's the result of the denial of love in any moment. He says, because fear has torment. When we are coming from a place of fear, we're in torment. We're tormenting ourselves. We're denying the truth. We're denying who we are. We're denying our perfect creation. We're not changing who we are. We're not altering who we are, because we cannot change what God created. You are the perfect creation of love, and you shall forever be the perfect creation of love. But what we are doing is our decision is determining our experience. We are experiencing torment, pain, suffering, division, strife, separation, because we are denying the truth. We're crying out for love. So when we see this on display, when we see grown men, grown women, when we see them acting from a place of fear, they are calling out for love. Why? Because they have abdicated their own soul to a false idea. And it leads to depravity. It leads to if we don't at some point embrace love, it leads to what they call it in scripture, it leads to a reprobate mind. It leads to a reprobate mind, where all we do is express hatred for ourselves, hatred for others, trying to find peace. And you'll never find peace in that. You'll never find peace in oppression. You'll never find peace in oppressing others because you're just oppressing yourself. It's like the guy said, when you dig a grave for someone else, you might as well dig too. Because you're digging your own grave. You're damning your own soul. You're denying the love that you are. You're not changing it, but you are having an experience. You're having a nightmare. He said, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out all fear, because fear has torment, and he that feareth is not allowing the perfect creation of love to be experienced. Can't change it, but we certainly won't experience it in our human walk. And then I want to finish with this one more statement that's coming from the Course in Miracles, and I'll be done. I know this has been lengthy, but hey, I have decided that, I'm going to be a voice for love. I'm going to create my own echo chamber called Truly. Is an echo chamber for love. The real you loves you. That's what Truly stands for. TRULY. Truly. The real you loves you, because the real you is love. This is my echo chamber. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. He that has an ear, let him hear what truth is saying. Guys and girls, we're not going to find another solution. We need to wake up to the truth that is true always. Religious leaders, political leaders, leaders of business, leaders of the arts, leaders of entertainment, leaders in every area of life. Listen, if we're not leading from a place of love, we're leading from a place of fear. And we find ourselves kicking against the very prick. We find ourselves creating or making our own misery. But happiness and joy and bliss and creativity and tranquility Hasn't gone anywhere. It's where God placed it. And it's in our memory. It's in our remembrance. That's why Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. He wasn't talking about him as a person, but in remembrance of what he represented. And Jesus was the representation of love. And so are you, and so am I. We are the representation of love. So if nothing else, let us decide that we're going to represent ourselves as our true self, as love. And you have the power to choose. You can do it. And so I'm going to finish with this. And so here, in Course in Miracles, in the final chapter 31, under the final under the final section called Choose Once Again, it says, choose once again. Because we can. You can choose again. If we've chosen wrongly, we can choose again. It says, choose once again. If you would take your place among the saviors of the world. If you would take your place as the light of the world, as Jesus said, that's who we are. We're the light of the world. So it's a choice. How are you choosing? He said, if you have chosen wrongly, you can choose again. He said, choose once again. If you would take your place among the saviors of the world, will you take your place as the light of the world? Or will you remain in a hellish state? Will you remain in a reprobate mind? Will you keep fighting and resisting the very thing that is your very nature, which is love? He said, or would you remain in hell and hold your brother there? Wow, there's so much in that statement, but I can't get into it right now because my time is up. But stay tuned, come back. Hey, join me next time. If you're watching the replay, just let me know that you just type replay. So you let me know I watched the replay so I can come back and show you some love. Thank you so much for being with me today and bearing with my compassion. I'm very compassionate about this subject, as you can see, and I will be echoing it the rest of the days of my life. So that's what you can come to expect from me. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you the next time. Bye-bye.